This is Pet Life Radio. Let's talk pets.
Hey, everybody. Welcome to the Whisker Report. We're a new podcast dedicated to helping anyone in the pet industry, whether you're in animal welfare or a for-profit pet company, get some PR and buzz for your business or nonprofit. I'm Mary Tan, one of the hosts of the shows, along with Alexandra Card, who hails from France, is living in Canada. She travels the world rescuing cats, primarily getting them fixed so they don't procreate, because we don't want to contribute to pet overpopulation, especially when it comes to cats. So bonjour, Alex.
Bonjour. It's a bit early for me today because I used to do that podcast around 7 p.m. and now it's 7 a.m. So yeah, excuse me if I'm a bit tired. But we're so excited about this show today. Mary has worked as a reporter for years before starting her own PR agency, and today we're going to pick her brain. But first, let me introduce you to our producer, Mark Winter of Pet Life Radio, who is the man who gets us to you each and every week. Hey, Mark.
Hi, how's everyone doing?
We are good.
I've been watching the Olympics all week and last week. So I know Alex said you were going to be at the opening ceremonies.
Yeah, I was. It was very wet. It was raining a lot, and I think you can't see it on TV, but it was actually it was crazy. It was like a storm.
I noticed when they were showing the coverage of the opening ceremonies, a lot of cats in Paris. I saw shots of a lot of cats walking around. So I was happy to see that, although I didn't see any of them like in the gymnastics, but I think they would probably be good for that. Balance beam. My cats, they have a great floor routine here. So I think they would be a good Olympic event.
We should have the Olympics for cats.
They should.
Absolutely. Well, so I guess I'm talking about myself a little bit today, not because I like talking about myself, but because I think I have some background that I'd like to share with everybody. I was a reporter for many, many, many years. I worked in cities like Atlanta, Las Vegas, here in Minneapolis, traveled around the country, contributed a lot to the network, news shows and that sort of thing. And I used to get a lot of press releases. And now we actually send out a lot, don't we, Alex?
Yeah, we do. So tell us, what was the worst part about receiving so many press releases? How did you get through them?
Okay, so one of the irritating things was I used to wake up to my inbox and I'd get like 100 pitches. And I would say 98% of them were just like sales pitches from brands, like a new product and that sort of thing, which I was in a mainstream television station. So I worked at the NBC in Las Vegas. I worked at the CBS station here in Minneapolis, and I worked at Fox in Atlanta. And those aren't news stories. And I get what they're trying to do. So like a lot of news services, as there's PR Newswire and all of these different pitches. And so what these news wires will do is they just blanket everybody, every journalist out there who kind of may have some sort of relevance to the topic. And I used to get like pitches for new cars and new dishwashing detergent. And I was a crime reporter primarily. So I really paid attention to like police press releases, anything that came from municipal government. And I really, really placed a lot of emphasis on if it was a viewer from my viewing area, because that's how we got a lot of tips. But the brand ones tended to fill up my inbox. And I can tell you, I would look at them for 2 seconds and delete. Unless the headline captured my attention, I wouldn't read it. And frankly, I just didn't have time because newsrooms nowadays have such a bare bones staff that everybody's doing multiple stories a day. There's so much news time to fill. I used to tell people, I fill the holes between commercials. And the news hole was getting bigger and bigger. Like today, morning news shows are from 4 a.m. to 10 a.m. And that's a big news hole to fill, but they want specific kinds of news. And I would say a lot of brand marketing people need to understand what a news story is. And a news story is anything that's new, trendy, it gets people talking, something emotional. Like if you watch the news, you'll understand what a news story is. And so, as somebody who is new to PR, new to marketing, trying to get your brand out there, trying to get your animal rescue out there, it's really important that you study the news and watch the news.
And yeah, I just want to jump in there and say that, at least for France, which is the market I know best, we are not as into fluffy stories as you guys are. So if you want to make the news in Europe about pet products or pet rescue or anything, it really, really needs to be a really good story, something that really interests people. And I think it would be much harder than for the American market.
Yeah, the American market is very fluffy, primarily in the mornings, because the research behind the morning shows is they want to find out what happens overnight, but they don't want to be pelted with bad news right away in the morning. You know what I mean? Like, yeah, if you watch most stations, they've got the headlines. There's usually like some dead body overnight or something in most markets. But then, you know what? They go to the person who's at the water parks swimming because it's such a hot day out, and I worked morning shows too at one point. And like I would do like silly things. I did a piece on skijoring, which is cross-country skiing with your dog and that sort of thing, because this is Minnesota. But animals really sell. I think in Europe, it seems to be more hard news, or it's got to be an issue. Like in Australia right now, they're doing feral cat hunts, which is horrible. If you're in Australia, stop it.
Yes, stop it.
Yes, it's just horrible. But, as a reporter, I was a reporter for 13 years. 90% of the PR people I dealt with in my career used to drive me absolutely batty, because they would call me, they'd send me their press release. Chances are I deleted it. They'd call me and say, "Did you get my press release?" And then I'd usually just say, "Yeah," because I got hundreds of press releases. And they're like, "Are you going to cover it?" And then, my standard answer is, "I don't know," because we don't decide things most news stations don't decide what to cover until the day of. The morning shows that have features, they'll plan their content out, a week or two before. But to get on the traditional evening newscasts, they don't decide that till the day of. And so these PR people would call me up on phone. "Are you going to come? Are you going to come?" And, a lot of times I would have to say no, or a lot of times I just wouldn't pick up the phone and I would wait to hear a message. And a lot of journalists don't return phone calls. So that's another thing to everybody out there who's new in the PR world, is chances are they're not going to call you back unless there's interest. And so there's a lot of rejection. And I mean, Alex, you and I talked about this when you first started in PR. You said to me, "No, nobody called me back. Nobody emailed me. I've heard crickets." And that's pretty standard.
Yeah, and I'd love to talk more about it right after a little break.
Here's Daryl Michelson, owner of Furniture Cat Furniture.
Back in 1990, I was in the market for some cat furniture. And as looking at the cat furniture available, I realized that most of it is basically overpriced junk. The big difference between our furniture and other cat furniture is the fact that we use plywood, and all other cat furniture is made with some sort of a particle board.
You can see the furniture difference online at Furniture.com. That's PURRNITURE.
Let's Talk Pets on PetLifeRadio.com.
So, Mary, can you tell us, because I had a hard time at the beginning when I started working with you, because, sometimes you would say my pitches were too salesy or my headline wasn't like grabbing attention enough. So what would be like kind of the best practices as someone who just starts and, they want to do their own PR? What would you recommend for them to do?
Well, first of all, never put out a press release that's really salesy unless it's going to specific media. So the pet trade media, that can be salesy because who's reading it? It's retailers, it's pet store owners, it's distributors. That's their market. But to the typical, American magazine, like your People magazine, your Women's Day, if that's still around, your Red Book, your Oprah magazines, what you want is you've got to try to generate something, an attribute of the product that doesn't sound salesy. So, for example, we have a client named Snoozer, right, Alex?
Mm-hmm.
And the thing about their products is it's an orthopedic bed, and it also helps anxiety in pets. And during the 4th of July, there's tons of issues with pets and anxiety. So instead of pitching the bed, you're going to pitch pet anxiety and all the symptoms that go along with that. And then at the end, you're just going to throw in, and a possible remedy for this is the Snoozer pet bed. It's about the pets, not the beds, but the beds get a mention, which ultimately can help because you're pitching Snoozer as a solution to the problem.
Mm-hmm. And Mark, you also receive a lot of press releases for people to, so you can talk about their product or they can get on a show. And so I was just wondering, for you, what are some of the things that you just cannot stand?
Well, it depends. Like what you were just saying about your products. If it's a product, I mean, it's okay. I don't mind getting those press releases because then I just forward them to Michelle Fern, who has Best Bets for Pets, which is our pet product show. So that's all well and good. The thing that I hate is the thing that Mary just said that you do is that you're disguising a pitch for a product into an article for something else. And I hate that. And also PR companies, listen to me, I'm talking to you guys, that you send a press release about a company that has a celebrity. Oh, like Taylor Swift is now, working with us for our new cat food. And then we contact and say, yeah, well, we'd like to have Taylor on, to talk about her cats and everything. Oh, well, Taylor's not available, but we can put you in touch with someone from the company to talk about the cat food. No. The reason that we want Taylor is the same reason that you did, because she's a celebrity and brings people in. So don't send us to somebody that's boring from your company to talk about food when we want Taylor Swift.
Yeah. Oh my God. Yeah. We talked about that earlier. It's the bait and switch.
Right.
Don't pitch what it is. And Mark, how you were telling me you don't like, the products at the end. That's because it wasn't done well. If the press was written really well, it should be kind of disguised, because I have gotten some publicity that way when they didn't really realize that they were promoting a product. So, and it might be that you don't talk about the product at all, but you have it.
I get those where they say, this person from this company wants to come on and talk about, summer safety tips for your dog. And I'm like, well, that's a sneaky way of getting your product in there. And, I'll forward it to different hosts if they want to do it, they can. But yeah, I mean, that's like a bait and switch to me. I don't like that.
Yeah. And, Mark's kind of hardcore. You know what? He is very, very representative. But I really think when it comes to journalists, reaching out to them, either direct messaging them on social media or emailing, I don't know any journalist that likes phone calls. Like, Mark, do you get calls from PR agencies?
I get calls all day long. I don't answer them. I only answer my phone for people that I know. I mean, send me an email because it's less invasive and I can read it while I'm doing something else.
Yeah.
I very rarely will return a phone call. But when I get press releases in my email, I always forward them to the show host whose show best matches the story in the press release. So I always forward them.
Yeah, absolutely. But yeah, so it's really my whole goal in my PR is to make sure I'm not annoying the press person or the journalist. And I really think my background, my vision of myself as a PR person is solely due to how I was treated and how I dealt with PR people in the past. And so I think it's really great to hire former news people as PR people, but there are a ton of exceptions. There's a ton of wonderful pet PR people like Alex who don't come from a media background, but just get it. The key is to understanding the reporter or the journalist's challenges. So their challenges are, number one, there's so many cuts in the industry that now journalists, instead of covering one beat, they may have to cover 5 beats. So like, for example, here in the Twin Cities, they used to have a reporter for like, every city had its own reporter at one point. Now they split it into a region. And so a reporter might cover the North Metro. So that's like 10 cities they have to cover. So as a PR person, your job is to make life as easy as possible for that journalist. And so some of the things that I would suggest is they want real people. They want an expert and they want a great visual typically. So make sure you provide that. So if you are a rescue and you are talking about your pet walk, your fundraising pet walk, make sure you showcase an animal that would be a beneficiary of those funds. Make sure you have an expert talking about why those funds are so needed. If you had a veterinarian or your executive director who can make a plea. The key is emotion and storytelling. If you can come up with a story that sparks emotion in people, so you want to make people super happy, you want to make them super sad. There's a reason why Alex, you may not know this, but the ASPCA used to have these Sarah McLachlan commercials. I'm sure Mark remembers them. Super sad. They made millions of dollars off of this ad, and people were so sick of it. But you know what? It worked.
I used to turn that off because it was so sad. I couldn't watch those animals. You want to adopt all of them and you can't do it. You feel bad.
Yes, absolutely. And so that's what you need to do. You need to take your product or your rescue and you need to find some way to create an emotion. And Alex, you kind of did that with your rescue. So a lot of people don't know that Alex runs an animal rescue.
Yes, I do. I do. And it was really hard to get any fundings or, to get. So I run my rescue in Greece and it's me, I'm French, and Amber, who is English. And it was very hard to get any media attention, at least in Greece, because, we're just two foreigners trying to come to Greece, trying to save cats. And for Greek people, I was like, yeah, well, that's like an everyday story. Everybody's trying to do that. But we did manage to get some PR and some media hits once we reach out actually to our local media. So I reached out to friends and I was like, hey, I'm just me, French girl trying to rescue cats in Greece. And they're like, well, that's super interesting. No one does that. And the same for Amber. So yeah, you just have to really know your market and try to reach out to the right market.
Can you talk a little bit about the story? Because the post that you put out went viral and it just tugged at your heartstrings. How did you do it?
Well, I guess that's exactly what you said. It's just to find the right story. So when you rescue animals, of course, you have a ton of stories that are like, heartbreaking. But ours was really special in the fact that it was heartbreaking, but it was also full of hope. So we found that little kitty cat completely paralyzed from the whole body. She couldn't walk. She couldn't do anything. So, of course, the vet said we should put her to sleep. But me, I don't follow instructions and I just push. I mean, I could see it in her eyes. She really wanted to live. She wanted me to help her. So I did. And a few months later, she just started to walk again. And thank God, because we filmed everything. So we filmed it from the beginning until the end. And that was the key point, because thanks to that, we made a little video, from the beginning until the end. But it was just like a random video. And then I woke up the next day and I had like millions of views. And then Dodo reached out and I was like, oh, wow. Okay, I guess I went viral.
If you Google Alexandre and Saving Lives, SAAVING lives, you'll see all the media coverage she got in Europe. And it was just completely, and the story was completely heartwarming. And that's what you need to do. And I'm sorry, but you could create a story for everything. If you can't come up with a story for your product or your rescue, you're not thinking hard enough.
Yes. And I also have a question, Mary, because I found that when I was trying to get, media hits in Europe, it's also the fact that you need to kind of create like a relationship with the journalist. So because one of them interviewed me and then the interview went really well and we started chatting and, told him all about my life story. And then he was like, I would actually like to interview you for another newspaper, for another media. And then that's how I got even more hits. It's just like, I feel like, and you taught me that as well. It's even if we're doing pretty much everything remote, it's just by emails or, text messages, you still have to try to create a connection with the reporter. You need to try to, just kind of become friends, and that's how you will get more hits, right?
Absolutely. So I always tell people, especially if you're like a pet store or you're, work with your local media first. So you want to do some research, look on their social media, see, does this reporter have a cat or dog? If they do, that's going to be your golden ticket because they love pets. And reach out to them and, maybe ask them to go out to lunch or dinner, happy hour, something like that. Or, say, hey, would you like to come and I'll give you a tour of my factory or whatever you do. Or just, you can reach out to them. You don't even have to have a story idea. You can say to them, hey, I'm really interested in knowing how your newspaper, how your TV station, how your website comes up with story ideas. And so in Alex's case, say, you're talking to somebody remotely. And where was the reporter based, Alex?
My hometown.
See? So the next time Alex is in Troyes, you're going to reach out to that reporter and say, hey, would you like to meet for coffee? And then, Mark, do you think you're more likely to respond to a pitch for somebody that you have a relationship with?
Oh, absolutely. Because, you become friends and then, can I interest you in this story? And I'm like, okay, that sounds interesting. I'll send it to the show host that goes best with it. But companies, PR people, they can always, on Pet Life Radio, on every show page for that show, it says you can contact the host directly. There's an email and you don't have to go through me. You can, pitch to whichever show you think your story goes best with. And a lot of times they'll do it because they're looking for things to talk about.
Yeah, absolutely. Journalists can come across as cold because they don't return messages because they're super busy. But I can tell you once, if you have the right press release, they like it, they cover it, continue to nurture that relationship, right? Find out, thanks for covering this story. What other kinds of stories are you or your editors looking for? The other thing I want to point out is that, like, for example, on TV, you see reporters and anchors. Those are the people that are like that you see on TV. But actually, they're not the decision makers. The people who are really pulling the strings. And in a past episode, we interviewed Maria Rattan, who is a former news director of multiple TV stations across the U.S. I urge you to listen to that. You want the news directors. You want the VPs of news. You want the producers of every newscast. You want the editors of the various sections of the newspaper. Those are the people making the decisions. The reporters will get story ideas, but they ultimately pitch to the editors to see if the editor likes it. One technique I've used is going directly to the editors or producers, and if they like it, they're going to assign a reporter to do it. And so there's numerous ways to find out. I think if you look on LinkedIn, put in TV producers in Miami or whatever, and you can find names. And it's going to take some work, but there's also some websites. I can't remember. Like there's one called, I think, Rocket Mail.
Rocket Reach.
Yes, Rocket Reach. So you can find out firstname.lastname@company.net. It's actually not that hard to find their emails. That's just a tip that I've used.
We'll come back with one more question right after this break.
Ready for the biggest cat celebration in the world? Come to the CFA International Cat Show and Expo in Cleveland, Ohio on October 12th and 13th. The expo is the world's grandest cat celebration, seamlessly blending pedigree cat exhibitions with feline welfare and rescue initiatives. It captivates over 10,000 feline enthusiasts each year, celebrating all cats, whether rescue or pedigreed, in a shared spirit of love and unity. Dive into cat-themed activations and enlightening educational sessions. Marvel at 1,000 non-pedigree and pedigreed cats, adoptable felines, and explore over 100 cat-themed vendors. It's an event dedicated to honoring our beloved felines and their admirers. And guess what feline influencers are coming to meet and greet? YouTube cat video sensation Aaron's Animals, as well as Nathan the Cat Lady, Lambo, Leisha, Choopy, and many, many more. Gather your cat crew and do whatever it takes to head to the CFA Cat Expo. It's a whisker-wiggling, tail-twirling extravaganza you won't want to miss. Get your tickets at cfacatexpo.com. That's CFACATEXPO.com.
Let's talk pets
Let's talk pets
on Pet Life Radio.
Pet Life Radio.
PetLifeRadio.com.
And we're back. And Mary, I also have a question for all the people who are trying to reach out to reporters with a new product. Is it standard practice to offer to send some product to the reporter? Can you do that?
Yes, absolutely. The thing to know is that, for example, the wire cutter is a super popular section of the New York Times. It's separate from the newsroom. And what they do is product reviews. And they do like the top 10 dog beds, the top 10 cat beds. But if you read their requirements, they have very high ethical standards. So if you send them product, they're going to look at it. But at the end, their journalists or their writers aren't allowed to keep it. They're going to be donated to a rescue or shelter. Other publications, the reporter is going to keep it. And technically, it depends. Like when I was in TV news, we weren't allowed to take anything over a certain dollar amount. In fact, it was like $5 or whatever. But I'm going to be honest and tell you that a lot of reporters will just keep it. And it varies from media outlet to media outlet. If it's an influencer, their influencers want free product. But, I advise companies to be careful about just sending out product because that's a lot of money, right? So you want to be strategic in who you're sending it out to. Is it a media outlet that can help me promote my product?
Yeah. And also, it's not because you're sending the product out that you're actually going to get anything in exchange for it, because the reporter could just get the product and then never post about it. It's not an agreement. So you're just sending your product to, get known, but actually, is anything going to come out of it? You don't know.
In fact, when I worked in newsrooms, they would get free product all the time. And 90% of the time, somebody just took it home and they never reported on it. So you have to be careful, like just be strategic. Now, somebody like Mark with Pet Life Radio, Michelle Fern has Best Bets for Pets. So she is going to need the product to talk about it. Am I right, Mark?
Right. Yeah, we get a lot of products. We've got a ton of vacuum cleaners and and pet water fountains and food, and you should see all the stuff that comes here. But they don't just send it usually. Usually they contact her first and they want to be on the show. And she goes, if you want to be on the show, I have to see a sample of your product. And so they send it. So we don't really get a lot of like just blind, I'm distracted by the cat.
Oh, that's
back.
Franklin.
But yeah, we don't just get a lot of like stuff just showing up. Usually they ask first.
Yeah. And that's what I would suggest too. And if it's, the reporters do need the product if they're going to write about it. And especially like the magazines and gift guides, in order to write about it, they have to try it, So I would typically ask first before I just blanket product out there. So.
Okay, amazing. Thank you so much, Mary. Is there anything you'd like to add as a former reporter for all of our listeners?
Yes. To all PR professionals out there, don't be an annoying PR person. Of course, journalists can be jerks too. So they're also at fault. Everybody be cognizant of how you're coming across to the reporters. And I do think that reporters need to be more courteous to PR people as well. Because I don't think I treated PR people as well as I should have. So to all those PR people there that I was mean to when I was a reporter, I apologize. So anyways, well, I guess that's a wrap for this show. We've been chatting a lot and we are so excited that you're listening to this. And we're so excited for you, our listeners, that you're making life better for animals. And of course, if you have a question that you want Alex or I or Mark to answer, please reach out to us on social media at The Whisker Report on Facebook or Instagram, and we'll try to answer your question in a future podcast episode. But as we always say,
bark loud and purr smart.
See everybody.
Let's talk pets. every week on demand, only on PetLifeRadio.com.